DEBORAH Sabina of Congo 3. The Lord's dealings with my anger. DEBORAH Sabina of Congo 3. The Lord's dealings with my anger. DEBORAH Sabina was targeted by Satan because of her star. The enemy had resolved to terminate my life because I had the star of God, which meant I was to serve God. It all began in maternity when I was born. A woman stole me. I mean, she exchanged me with her baby. When people noticed that something was wrong, they began to search for me. I should have died because of the place this woman took me. When nurses searched the hospital, they managed to find me and handed me to the local priests. The priests named me the servant of God. I spent my childhood in the convent. My first death experience. At the age of 4, I was drowned in the river when I was playing with my friend. When this happened, they ran away in panic. But a man that was passing noticed my corpse above the water when everybody has run away. I was already dead. And he wanted to get my corpse out of the water, but he hesitated out of fear. The man abandoned my body. And when he was going away, he heard a voice telling him to go back and reanimate my body. And this man managed to get water out of my belly. And I came back to life by the grace of God. The man put me on the shoulder and took me to the hospital. All I remember when I was dead was a void and emptiness. At the 4th year of primary school, I began to have visions that I was telling these Catholic priests. In secondary school, these visions multiplied. The priests told my parents I should begin to live in the convent. But my parents refused because I was the only child. This refusal was a blow for me. Back then, life in the convent was all that mattered for me. I was angry and refused to attend the Mass. Yet I was an acolyte. I fell into rebellion and in juvenile delinquency, and I was no longer interested in God. As a result of this rebellion, my parents sent me to a boarding school in a remote village, my second death experience. It was in that school in a remote village that I was struck by sickness. When I went to the hospital, every night I could not sleep, for I was seeing death, cemetery and demons. Doctors could not do anything for me. And my situation was worsening. In the end, I died in that hospital. Very quickly, I saw that I became two. When I went out of my body, immediately I saw my mother's uncle. He was rejected by the family because of witchcraft activity. However, I had pity on him when everybody rejected him, and I was the only one in the family helping him, for he was weak. The family was concerned and they feared that I was in danger because he was a witch. When the world of witches saw my goodness towards him, Lucifer asked my mother's uncle to sacrifice me. He begged Lucifer to ask for someone else, but the devil refused, even though my mother's uncle proposed 10 different people. All this because there was an emotional connection between him and me. The devil always asks to sacrifice people that are dear to his followers. The devil said, in order to become the leader of witches in Congo, you must offer that girl that always assists you because she is dear to you. As a result, my mother's uncle went on to offer me as a human sacrifice. When I went out of my body, I saw this uncle beyond the grave. He asked me to follow him, and we began a journey to an unknown destination. We passed many bushes, many forests, and rivers while my body was left behind. My spirit continued to move with my mother's uncle, the leader of witches. We finally arrived in a city where there were many flowers. I saw an enclosure surrounded by leaves. When we were about to enter this compound, my uncle looked at me deeply. I saw that he was sad and emotional. He told me, I think I am not entering with you. I am gonna hide you here. Don't come out under any circumstances. And don't move even if you see people, even if you are bitten by an ant, don't move, stay hidden. When I finished with people inside the enclosure, I will come back to get you home. Then my uncle left me hiding and entered the enclosure. When I hid and I was looking at what was happening inside the compound, I saw a crowd of people in excitement when my uncle entered this place. They said, finally, the master has arrived, and they were clapping and welcoming him. I was stunned to learn that our poor uncle was a leader in this world of witches. When he sat down he began to smoke cigarettes, but I noticed he was blowing the smoke in the direction of the place where I was hiding. I could not understand why. Then one of these people asked my mother's uncle, "Master, you came by yourself, but where is Sabina?" My uncle said, "I will bring her tomorrow. I have not seen her." Another man stood up and said, "Master, I have invited people even from Europe to come and eat her flesh. What will I tell these people?" Another man said, "Master, when you asked human sacrifice, we do it. But when it is your turn, you don't do it. Look, I have already brought chili and I made sauce already for her flesh." Another witch said, "Master, I had brought the stick in order to put to the meat of Sabina." A witch said, "Master, I brought the hammer, saw, and machete in order to butcher and cut Sabina's flesh and meat." My uncle said, "I will bring her tomorrow." When I saw the scenes I said, "Really, my uncle brought me here in order to kill me." Another man stood up and said, "Master, when you were coming inside, I sensed the smell of a human. You began to smoke and blow the smoke in the air to dissipate human smell. You surely brought a human with you." This witch had a very long and strange nose. He said, "I can smell a human. Allow me to search outside." My uncle said, "You have to trust me. There is no one here." The witch said, "I definitely smell a human around." I was stunned to realize that these witches were gathered to butcher my body with machete, hammer, and saw in order to cook and devour my flesh. I was in terror. Suddenly, I heard a voice in the sky that told me, "Sabina, are you not praying? You should have been praying. Can you understand that today is the day of your death? Can you see the burning oil in the saucepan on the coal? Can you see the saw, the machete, and the hammer brought by witches to butcher your body and eat your flesh? Can you see all the ingredients that these witches brought in order to butcher your flesh and cook it? Pray to God, because today you were supposed to die. Deborah, Sabina, today is the day of your death." I lifted my eyes in the sky to see who was talking to me. But there was no one. Back then I was a Catholic believer. And I did not know how to pray. I began to recite Our Father who art in heaven, then Ave Maria, and the symbol of the apostle that I learned in the Catholic Church. Suddenly I felt someone holding me on the shoulder. I feared because I thought it was these witches that came to capture and butcher me. But when I looked back, I saw an angel of God that told me, "Fear not, Sabina. But why are you not praying? These witches are supposed to kill you today. You cannot get angry against God. It's not because your parents refused to let you join the convent that you should turn your back on God. Now, look at what is happening to you. You have to pray. Even if you are not in a convent, you can still serve God." The Lord's angel held my hand and pulled me out of this place. And we began to walk away. He said, "You turned your back on God and you came to study in the village of witches. As a result, you are dead. You thought you came to hide from God. But you came right in the hand of Satan. But the Lord Almighty has sent me to you because of your good deed and goodness. You always show goodness to people and you do good deeds a lot. Your uncle that was supposed to betray you and kill you is unable to deliver you to these witches. Because of all the good deeds and kindness you have shown him. When all the family rejected him, you were the only one who was helping him. You ignored the fact that he was a witch. Thus your good deeds are speaking louder before the Lord, who said you should not be allowed to die. Don't give up doing good as you are going back. Tell people not to stop doing good. Goodness and hospitality have a voice before the throne. The Lord remembers them that do good." Acts 10:4 Your prayers and charitable gifts have ascended as a memorial offering before God. Finally, we arrived at our place where people were mourning for me. The angel told me, "You see where people are crying for that body. Get there and you will sit around the foot of the corpse of a dead person." And when I went to sit next to the feet of the corpse that was laying there, immediately I heard people saying, "She has moved, I had actually returned to my body and there was a commotion among the people for my body had moved and I came back to life. I was prey for Lucifer wanted to conquer my soul but he failed. Lucifer had not given up on my soul. Spiritual husband. When I enter into marriage, I had trouble sleeping. People were strangling my neck in dreams. There were witches in this new city where I moved and I remember the angel warned me to pray in order to have an advantage over these witches. Since I was failing to pray, as a result, I could not sleep in the night. I began to fear sleep. I no longer slept in the night for assault and sex in the dreams. I was taken to a native doctor who gave me water to wash at midnight. The more I washed at midnight, the more demons came instead of going away. I heard them talking to one another saying, "Let's capture her and torment her." The torment reached a level where spiritual husbands were removing my underwear and I was waking up naked. Even though I was sleeping with clothes for I don't sleep naked. Every morning I woke up naked and my clothes were flung away from me. When I was taken to the hospital because of a health condition, I met a man that knew my mother. When he saw my condition he went to tell my mother who came to pick me and took me to an evangelical church for prayer. I went through liberation prayer. I was delivered from demonic aggression and a spiritual husband, even though there was no demonic manifestation. The prophet revealed my uncle had agreed to offer my soul to Lucifer as a sacrifice. Since they failed to capture my soul in the last incident, they are still resolved to terminate my life. Unless I pray, I will die because they are determined and Lucifer wants to devour me, because I have the star of God and I will serve God. New birth and regeneration. After liberation, I received the Lord and became a Christian. When I came to the Lord very quickly, I realized that I had an issue of anger. I could not understand why I had such extreme anger. One morning after cooking, I saw that the food turned out to be what I did not expect. I told my mother, "Why is everything going bad for me since I left the Catholic Church? You told me not to go to the Catholic Church and follow you to the Evangelical Church because you're God bless. But why is my food like this? I am not coming to church anymore." I refused to join the family in prayer. While the family continued to pray, I heard a voice in the sky that told me, "Why are you not joining the family in prayer? If the miracle that God has done in your life happened in the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, they would have repented. Why can't you repent and change your heart? Imitate those who had faith for they inherited the promise." I said, "Mother, God really speaks for I heard a voice telling me to imitate men of faith." When I told the pastor this encounter, the pastor said, "You have a star of God but you don't want to serve God." One day I was laying down with eyes opened when I saw an eye watching me. I thought I was dreaming. But when I touched my body, I realized that everything was real. This eye was watching me and flashing rays of light. My auntie prophesied and said, "Thus say the Lord, I came this way because Sabine has a hard heart. I will come in many ways to her." The Lord told me, "There is one thing left in your life, Sabine, which is anger. When you remove that anger, I will fulfill what I had planned to do in your life." I said, "Lord, how can I remove anger in my life?" The Lord said, "You must make up your mind in your heart to abandon anger." When I was in prayer, the Lord showed me the root of my bad character. In this vision, I saw a gorilla that appeared before me. It was the demon who manipulated me in anger. The Lord said, "You will go to your mother and ask her what happened in your childhood." When I talked to my mother, she told me, "When you were born, I washed you with a monkey skull so that you will be stronger." I told my mother, "If you really wanted me to be stronger, why did you complain when I was fighting against everyone in the neighborhood?" Brother, I was baptized in the Holy Spirit and I started speaking in tongues. However, the problem of anger was still not resolved. In fact, whenever I get angry, in order to calm this anger, I would throw and break things around me. I had the spirit of a gorilla in me because of my mother's actions of washing me with a monkey's skull when I was a baby. I went to God and said, "Lord, my mother told me that she was washing me with monkey bones. The Lord said, the extreme anger in your life is the spirit of a monkey whose bones you are washed with. Despite your baptism, you have this spirit of anger and you go to see the pastor and confess so that they will cast out that wicked spirit. The Lord asked me, Deborah, you do work in a plantation in the field, right? I said, yes, I work in the field and plantation. The Lord said, since you work in the field and plantation, you know better when your seed is growing alongside unwanted herbs, the plantation will not grow properly, right? I said, Lord, you have to remove these unwanted herbs first, otherwise, the plantation will not grow properly. The Lord said, this is how the kingdom of God is. When I give you work or ministry, unless you remove bad characters, these works of the flesh will undermine and prevent the ministry and talent I planted in you to grow and develop. First, your heart must be cleaned. Then the ministry and talent in you will grow and bless the church. Now go find your pastor and confess for prayer. I went to church and confessed to the men of God that I was washed with bones of monkey and I have the spirit of anger. I needed deliverance. They instructed me to do 3 days of fasting and prayer. My prophetic gift exploded during these days of fasting and prayer. And I began to tell people their lives, each one of them. I told the pastor, you just got married, but you will become the bride and your wife will become the man. The pastor was not happy and said, you are prophesying because you have a demon. When I heard this, I exploded in anger, forgetting that I was in 3 days of fasting and prayer for the sake of deliverance from the spirit of anger. I told the pastor, since you said I have a demon, don't talk to me anymore. We will talk at the cemetery and I will never attend your preaching again. I interrupted the fasting and left the church, but the other pastors followed me in the street begging me to return to church and continue my deliverance prayer. In the street I heard the voice of the Lord in the sky calling my name. The Lord said, Deborah, is the gift of prophecy in your life from your father or from your mother or from me? If anyone refuses the message that you deliver to him, you should have come to me. Why have you insulted the pastor? If you were a pastor, and a member of your church insulted you, will you like it? When I heard these words, I went to ask the pastor for forgiveness, but he refused. When the Lord came to me, he said, you will go back to him again to ask for forgiveness.